You're listening to the Empowered Woman, Badass and Unfiltered podcast, a place for inspiration, empowerment, and personal development, showcasing badass women from all over the world, giving tips on personal development, mindset, and healing. I'm your host, Olivia, transformational success coach for spiritual female entrepreneurs. Now let's dive into this episode. Welcome back to the Empowered Woman, Badass and Unfiltered podcast. Your host, Olivia here, and it's time to talk about the end of season 6. What were the best podcasts? What were my favorites? Lessons learned? All of that jazz. This one's actually going to be really interesting. I'm giving stats, and I'm going to do a recap of just all the stuff. So just to get into it, I want to talk about the most popular podcast and my favorite podcast. They're not necessarily the same. So the most popular podcast and one of my favorite podcasts was episode 5 of season 6, Making the World a Better Place with TEDx speaker Marla Bautista. Listen. This one right here is one that this woman has changed my life. She has changed my heart. She has made me be a better person. And I always talk about being around people that make you be a better person. She's one of those people. So in this podcast, we talk about ending homelessness. And what she's doing in the Tampa Bay area is something that is absolutely amazing. And after speaking with her, because I do a 2-part booking process. So I speak with the person before, and I don't do this with everybody. I try to. And I've learned that when I don't, sometimes it's just not the best. So going forward, that's one of the things I've changed as far as lessons learned. But I did meet with her, and just in speaking with her, I was like, okay, I need to look at homeless people differently. I need to fix my own heart posture. That's where I'm kind of screwed, right? So an opportunity to start volunteering at the overnight warming center in about 45 minutes away from my house opened up a few days after I spoke with her. And without question, I was like, okay, I'll sign up to start doing this. And then by the time we recorded, I had already been volunteering with this overnight warming center a few times. And I probably would not have been as open to it if I had not spoken to her. So this woman has changed my life in so many ways. And that's one of the reasons why this is one of my favorite podcasts. And I'm so happy that it has gotten as many downloads as it has. And if you haven't listened to it, you should definitely check it out. The other popular podcasts are okay. The second most downloaded, and this is actually tied with another one. So I'm just going to tell you, it's How I Manifested My Husband Without Knowing That. I did that for just the fun of it being around Valentine's Day. So yeah, it's true. I manifested him. That's where that is. The third, which tied with the second, was productivity, mindset, and using your menstrual cycle to your benefit for female entrepreneurs and content creators. This is what I do coaching wise. So I just talked about this, and it got the same amount of downloads as Manifesting My Husband. So I guess it was interesting enough for people. Another podcast that I had that was number 4, but it was literally only 1 download less than the other 2, was Benefits of Becoming a Franchisee with the franchise fitter Diane Place. Oh my goodness, listen, I'm telling you, once I get older and retire and do some other things in my life, I might just start a franchise, because this lady had me sold on starting a franchise. Oh man, I've spoken to the self-made millionaire Nicolene El Haddad. I did that podcast in season 3, and she has franchised her business at this point. I think she's at 31 different locations. I'm not saying that that's what I want to do, but owning a franchise and not having to do all the work and just learning so much from Diane was very, very helpful. So if you're even considering opening a franchise, definitely listen to that podcast. And then my other most downloaded podcast, number 5, was Quick Tips to Turn Your Day Around. So I think that resonated with a lot of people. Now, one of my other favorite podcasts that's not necessarily up here in downloads, but it was season 6, episode 15, a message from a Ukrainian businesswoman who's helped over 120 women flee Ukraine. This one right here is another life changer. It made me remember to just appreciate the small blessings in life, the little things in life. That was really, really a huge shift in my life, and just practicing more gratitude and realizing that, all of our problems are not as big as we make them. So yeah, and I mean, Anastasia is her name. She's just doing amazing things, just to be somebody that is currently dealing with a war that she had to flee and leave everything. And she's using her network to help other people. This is not just like some average. Okay, I shouldn't say it like that. This is a businesswoman that has worked with businesses as big as McDonald's for their customer service. And she talks about the importance of your network and how to network differently, and what she's doing because of her ability to network. At this point, I just recently looked at her page. She said she's helped 140 women flee. And when I'm talking about helping them flee, I'm talking about helping them find jobs, helping them find places to live. She's a woman that's changing the world. And, her and Marla are those are the types of women I love having on my podcast. Yeah, sure. It's nice to have the people that are highly acclaimed, and I really appreciate that too. But the people that are doing the most for the world and really making the world go round, those are the badass women that I love having on my podcast. And it's not to go against anybody that's, highly acclaimed in other aspects of life and success in business. But when you are truly changing lives and putting society at the forefront, I just have so much respect for people like that. And I'm almost tearing up just thinking about how amazing those women are, and just having the opportunity to just share space with such amazing people. And I'm so grateful for them just being guests on this podcast. Seriously, if you have not listened to her podcast episode, season 6, episode 15, it'll make you look at things differently. And it's not a sad podcast either. It's different than what the news is going to tell you about the war. And granted, it came out March 23rd, but this war is still a very real thing. And there are people really hurting. And that's before I get too emotional on that. So just to give you some stats, this podcast has been downloaded from day one. It's been downloaded in 44 countries, but since February 2nd, it has been downloaded in 23 different countries: the United States, Canada, Sweden, the UK. Shout out to Sweden. Canada really started stepping back up. Sweden, come through. I don't know why you want to listen to a Black American girl with all my different dialects, but I hope that it's value that you see in me. The UK, Nepal, Australia, Germany, Jamaica. There's a country on here that's not even listed, but it's got a space. The Philippines, the United Arab Emirates, Greece. Hey, Greece. How you doing? What is life? I've been downloaded in Greece. I just think that's so cool. The Netherlands, South Africa, India, China, Nigeria, Cyprus, France, Mexico, Romania, Latvia, and the Seychelles. Oh, how cool is that? How cool is that? It kind of blows my mind to think that people from all these different countries are just listening to my voice. I really hope that my voice is not super annoying. And I try, guys, I really try to make sure that my guest voice is not an annoying voice. I cannot stand people that have annoying voices because yeah, I care about your ears. I really do. So as far as like downloads wise goes, 60% of my downloads came from Apple Podcast, 16% came from Amazon Music, and 11% came from Facebook. So if you're a podcast creator, put your RSS feed in your Facebook business page, because it's done more for me than Spotify, iHeartRadio, a lot of things. So yes, while Apple Podcast is king, Amazon Music and Facebook are moving up in the stats when it comes to promoting podcasts. So make sure if you're a podcaster and you're listening to this, that you are putting your RSS feed in those places. My listenership has increased by 184%, like downloads since season 5. So I've honestly, I had like 1,000 or so more downloads, like, which I'm very, I should be happy about, right? I guess I don't, podcasts are weird. Like, I think people tell me, oh yeah, your numbers are great. But then I'm like, are they really? But at the same time, I'm very grateful that people just keep coming back and listening to my voice and the things that I have to say. So I appreciate you guys for sure. Maybe it's just me wanting to continuously grow and build this platform to share real, authentic stories from women all over the world. So if you had a favorite podcast, share it with somebody that you know. Share it with somebody that you think that will benefit them. That would really, really help me grow. If you really enjoy listening to this podcast, leave a review on Apple Podcasts to really help it grow. Like, that would, I thank you. Like, I would really, really, really appreciate if you did that. What else do I want to share with you guys? Oh, okay. Lessons learned. So not everybody is a good person, and not everyone has the best interest at heart, and are, the listener's interest at heart. And one of my things that I'm really focusing on going into season 7 is making sure that my guest intentions are pure, and they are here to add value. If a person kind of shies away from an answer, I'm going to push more for a specific answer. I'm going to be a little more direct, a little more saucy, I feel like is the way to say it. Because there was one podcast guest in particular, and I'm not going to say their name, that I just felt like, and it was not a female. I just felt like they were not necessarily the best. And going forward, I'm going to just make sure that I only put out people that I feel good about genuinely. That's how I feel about that. That was one of my biggest lessons learned, because people can be kind of sucky sometimes. I'm just going to be honest. As far as season 7 goes, I've got a whole list. I'm going to just be honest. I had to have a waiting list. I had a waiting list for this upcoming season, and now I'm actually on my waiting list for season 8. I get publicists and PR people that send me people all the time, and I'm very, very grateful that I don't have to look for guests. I'm very grateful for that. The reason I do waiting lists is because I don't like to record all the time, all willy-nilly. I coach as well, and I volunteer, and I, work part-time at the restaurant. Like, I do a lot of stuff, and it just helps me to batch record content in a small small bit of time and then edit and go as it goes, and then put it out relatively within the same time span. And then just have another list, because I have to be in control of my own schedule at the end of the day. Like, I have to be in control of how my posting and everything like that goes. So, and there's a lot of people that have come my way and want to specifically, like, be guests. And it's like, okay, well, wait a second. I don't have that. That's not what I'm doing right now, And if you are a podcaster, I don't know, how you are doing that, but it helps me stay consistent. And it also just helps me not get overwhelmed with scheduling all the time. But at the end of the day, you got to do what works for you. And that's what works for me. I've got some super high level guests. I think I have like 2 more TEDx speakers coming up. I've got the podcast coming out next week is a copywriter that made 6 figures in her first year of business. And her stuff is like golden. And we talk so much. You know how it is. I ask all the questions. And there's some other guests that I'm so pumped to talk about. We're talking about traumas. We're talking about money. We're talking about, female empowerment, just things to give you value. That's really what I'm after, just giving you as much value as possible. So if you've been listening, if you've been coming along with this journey with me, thank you so much for continuously showing up. If you are a new listener, thank you for being here. And I am so looking forward to what the Empowered Woman, Badass, and Unfiltered will do. Now, with all of that being said, I hope you're as excited for season 7 as I am. Thank you so much. And as always, go out and be a badass. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Empowered Woman, Badass, and Unfiltered podcast. If you found any value in this, please consider sharing and subscribing. Now go out and be a badass.